Hello again, welcome to our weekly chat on Sheffield Live TV. You know, the benefits of Zoom, I suppose it's great to be in the studio, but one of the things with Zoom is you can get almost anywhere. And I decided the only way we could take you to Florida, for instance, was to get Neill Collins on the show. You remember Neill, former Sheffield United stalwart defender, now managing in Florida. Hello, Neill, how are you?
Hi there. I should say, I don't know if it's good morning or good afternoon, but it's great to join you.
Well, I know it's good morning for you, and it's very, very early in the morning. I suppose if there's a place to get locked down, Florida's as good as any, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't complain. I think during this tough period for everyone, me and my wife have constantly said, you know, it's a great place to be in this situation because we've been able to take the kids out on their bikes. We've been out fishing. For that last weekend there, we were able to go back to the beach as they become open again. So, you know, again, it's when you've got the sun shining, things always seem a little bit better.
Yeah, the sun certainly will shine in Florida. Mind you, you're missing some fantastic weather back home at the moment in Sheffield. You wouldn't recognise it, honestly.
I'll take your word for it, Alan.
It really is. You've got 4 kids, which keeps you very active, not to mention a very busy job. And you initially combined playing with coaching, and you're now head coach of Tampa Bay Rowdies in Florida. How are you finding that?
Yeah, I'm loving it. I think, you know, when you get to that point in your career, you know, and the opportunity comes to become the head coach, I had no hesitation in taking that role. I was ready for the challenge. And it's been everything I thought it would be, and probably a little bit more. I think the time that you have to put into it wasn't surprising to me at all. It's something that I wanted to embrace. But just the challenges that come up, every day is different. You never know what's coming next. Players have got a great way of challenging you when you least expect it. But no, I'm loving it. I'm at a great club with you know, great facilities, great fans. You know, and it's a great challenge to try and take them where I think they need to be. So,
Tell me, did you ever challenge managers when they least expected it?
I'm sure I wasn't perfect, but I think I was always pretty good at that. The phone never rang at 10 o'clock on a Thursday night, you know, because I was out in a nightclub or being arrested or involved in any fracas. You know, I'm sure sometimes in the changing room I'd have my say, but it's just it's interesting, Alan. You just never know what's coming across your desk next. It ranges, you know, and that's one of the things that I think is great about the job that they can't teach you on a coaching course. You've got to be in the job to learn. Last year, we're sailing along nicely, and then you get a bid out the blue for your goalkeeper from his hometown club, and he wants to go back, and you just can't let it happen. I mean, these are all parts of management that you know, you try and use your intuition, use your experience to deal with, and obviously the more you get right, the more successful you are, I suppose.
Well, I hope you stay in that job for a long time and you make a great career in management, because I'm frightened to death that you should ever go full-time as a writer. Quite honestly, some of your work, and not just because you're here, I think it was in between playing and managing, you decided to start writing some blogs. I've got to say they were absolutely bloody excellent. Honestly, as I say, frightened me to death. I mean, is that something that came naturally to you, or is it something you had to learn how to communicate that way? Or did you even have a ghostwriter? I'm kidding, by the way.
I'm flattered. I mean, coming from, I think the greatest compliments I've had when I took that was from, you know, my peers, whether it be players or people like yourself, people that are journalists that have made a career out of it. And honestly, Alan, no, I wrote everything myself. I wrote everything myself. It wasn't ghostwritten. I think it was probably based from, I used to love, I still love to read, but grew up and I'd read anything to do with football. And when you do that, you obviously get to read some great writers, people that are able to express themselves, and probably pick up, you know, bits and pieces from that. And then again, love football, love talking about football, love writing about it. So just something that I thought I'd put my hand to, and I'm glad that it's been well received.
No, it's great that you're destroying the myth, actually, and the reputation that players are inarticulate. I mean, you're not the only example of this. I think Gregor Robertson, several others just recently have picked up a pen. That's an old language pen, but whatever. I've started tapping away some great stuff. We'll come back to that a bit later, but just picking up on your career. I mean, you played, I think, for something like 10 clubs in Britain and abroad, including Sheffield United twice. We've got one little spell to look back at, which was on loan with Neil Warnock. What was that, 2006, I think it was, and the 5 years, 2011 to 2016. Now, you left in 2016. You left just as the fun began, didn't you, when you look at it?
Yeah, again, I think where the clubs, went for the last 3-4 years has just been fantastic, and I think quite clearly down to the impact that Chris Wilder's had at the club. I mean, there's obviously a lot of people behind the scenes that have played a big part in that. Alan Neill, again, obviously been a really fantastic addition in the backroom staff. The players, people like Billy Sharp, but Chris Wilder, has got to take the majority of the plaudits for leading the club back to where they should be. And again, I'd love to have played under Chris. I'd love to have the opportunity to play under Chris and seen what would happen. But that, life doesn't always work like that. I think just an unfortunate period at times. Some good moments in there, but just unfortunate that we never managed to maybe have the leadership or the squad, or many reasons that we just couldn't quite get back on that upward trajectory. But it's great to see, from the fans' sake, that they're getting the rewards that they deserve.
Yeah, not too many people around who were there with you. Billy Sharp, though, was a teammate, wasn't he, at that time? Yeah. Anybody else? I'm trying to think.
Yeah, Chris Basham. Chris Basham played
the amazing Chris Basham.
With Chris, and again, I think the biggest thing for me should have been a big learning curve, probably for a lot of fans, I imagine, because they went through a real tough spell, and I'm sure they all had opinions on certain players and certain things, and people like Kieran Freeman, Chris Basham, Paul Coots, they all had their share of criticism, like we all deserved at times, but at times, I think sure these players we still talk would agree that at times it was out with our control. The circumstances surrounding certain things, you're trying your best. Someone like Chris Basham always gave 100%, but maybe playing in a position that wasn't right for him, maybe playing in a role that wasn't suited to him. And I think it just showed you that once you got these guys into the right roles, playing things to their strengths, they were the same person, the same player, but just been asked to do things that they could really be effective with. So I think it's great to see, and it just shows you that the line is so thin.
Yeah, it shows you as well. It can be a mistake to misjudge players or to come to a perception of them, because, as you say, under a different manager, different organisation and system, they can be world beaters. Even though the Basham story is just astonishing. I think we all knew that Billy Sharp would score goals, can score goals at any level, and he's proved that again. But Chris Basham, I mean, it's an unbelievable story, isn't it?
Oh, it's great, and it couldn't happen to a nicer guy, which I'm sure everyone's well aware of. Bash is highly respected because of his attitude to the game, his attitude to his teammates. It's great to see. And again, it just goes back to, again, players are sometimes only limited by people's perception of them. I think there's been great examples through the years where managers get the best out of players that prior to that fans and coaches alike just think are limited. It's amazing if you get to that level, what you can achieve. Again, just like we've said there, put in the right role and then couple that with the attitude and the desire that someone like Chris Basham's got. I think it's great. I think, again, that's why Chris Wilder's got to take so much credit, for rejuvenating players like that. Kieran Freeman's another one that's still there that I played with and who's been a revelation, playing in a position that he's able to score goals, get forward. It's been a real, great thing to see from obviously a Sheffield United fan's point of view, from someone like myself, holds the club in such high regard. But just from a football coach's point of view, it's intriguing.
players can respond to certain managers and not to others. You had mixed experiences. Danny Wilson, who I thought was extremely harshly sacked and very unlucky. I actually thought he did a really good job there. And then you, Nigel Clough, I also thought did a good job. But this was chalk and cheese for you in terms of those two managers, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, again, I actually think I played some of my best football under both of those managers. Danny, you speak to anyone that played under Danny, they have a lot of praise for him. I really enjoyed my time under Danny. I think if you speak to Kevin McCabe now, he'll explain that in hindsight he made the wrong decision. I think he was eager to get Sheffield United back to where they were, and probably jumped the gun on that. Danny worked under real constraints at times, and I think if you look at the season that we missed out with Ched, obviously going through what he went through, and I remember missing some really important games because my son was seriously unwell in intensive care. Those were real impacts. Those really impacted us that season, and those points that we dropped during those spells could have been the difference. But Danny, being the manager that he was, he always handled it so well and never really used these as excuses, which said a lot about him as a man. And then the Nigel Clough situations we spoke about. Look, I actually felt during Nigel's period, we got to the FA Cup semi-final. I was playing some of the best football that I played, and then even the following season, I felt I'd actually put in some really good performances. It was a kind of strange situation to end up in, but there's no doubt that he did achieve some success at the club in terms of the cup competitions were fantastic. I think just the league situation, I still think we underachieved, not managing to get that automatic promotion, which got held against them, obviously.
Yeah, and it was during those times under Danny and Nigel Clough that you kind of held the hand of Harry Maguire early in his career, so to speak. I think it was Mickey Adams actually who gave Harry Maguire his debut, and he dumped Craig Bellamy memorably on his backside. Tell me about that relationship that you developed with Harry, and perhaps your pride in him going on to become the most expensive defender in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I think I understood quite quickly how good Harry was from playing beside him. As an 18, 19-year-old in his first couple of seasons, I like to think I helped him. We enjoyed a great relationship together. He was a great listener, Harry, but he had a great knowledge of the game. He was quite quickly able to adapt and learn about what it was like going, for instance, away to a Stevenage or away to a Scunthorpe, and the challenges those type of games brought, different type of strikers brought. And I thought we complemented each other very well. But again, I was very, very surprised it took him as long to get to where he is now. I thought the rise would have been quicker, but probably benefited him playing all those games, going through the stages, going to Hull, then going to Leicester. But no, I'm pleased for Harry. Really, really pleased. He's done it. He's had help along the way, but he's got to take huge credit for his level-headedness, and he's just such a good person. Again, it's great to see it happen to such a good guy.
And his advance has come in an era when it's encouraged for defenders to play out from the back, move out from the back. It's something he can do. It must be for you quite an extraordinary change that's come about, and one which is actually at the heart of what Chris Wilder's done as well with Sheffield United with those centre backs.
That's right. I think the big thing with Harry, compared to maybe some other young centre backs that can play, Harry's also strong as an ox, dominant in the air, fantastic defender. I mean, he really does have both sides to it. And I think if you look at Chris Wilder's back three, they're very similar. You can't fight them because they're strong and they're aggressive, but they can really play. And I spoke to someone recently who played against Sheffield United in the Premier League, and he said they're so underestimated about how well they handle the ball. Again, Chris Basham is great at carrying the ball on the dribble. Forward, Jack O'Connell, the same. John Egan was actually at Sheffield United on loan when I was there for a very short period of time. That was during my son being unwell. That was why Johnny came in. And could tell even then he had a good head on his shoulders, and he's been fantastic. So it's a great balance that they've got, and I think you have to have that balance at that level. You can't have one or the other. You'll be caught out.
Yeah. Just tell us a little bit about your previous spell at Sheffield United. I remember you were signed just in time for a derby as an emergency signing, weren't you? It was Sheffield United under Neil Warnock facing a derby with Sheffield Wednesday at Hillsborough, which you won, I think, by 2-1. I mean, I think you only made a couple of appearances there on loan. That was an experience, wasn't it?
That was a real crazy couple of days. I think it was on the Wednesday evening. I played a reserve game for Sunderland against Manchester City, and during the game I developed a really bad blister that got badly infected. So on the Thursday morning, the infection was tracking up my leg, and I ended up going straight to the hospital in Sunderland and getting on an IV. It's all right. I was on an IV drip, and getting looked after. And then must have been on the Thursday evening, phone goes, Neil Warnock, I think my agent maybe prior, say Sheffield United want you in loan, and I'm like, well, I'm in the hospital. I mean, he's like, well, they play Sheffield Wednesday this Saturday, and I thought, right, okay. Got discharged Friday morning, got straight in my car against doctor's orders, I should say, but drove to Sheffield and managed to get the signing done Friday evening. Then had a meal with Neil to discuss the game the next day, and met the team Saturday morning. So kind of half fit, half prepared, but it was a great experience, and we managed to win the game. So yeah, strange, but a great day.
Strange but true, as is the fact that I've been joined by a co-presenter here. Charlie he's come up, he's been so well behaved. Charlie, just be happy with your debut on Sheffield Live TV, and then we'll see you later. He's going off there. Neil Warnock, though, you've played for so many different managers, and you've had varied experiences with them. Which of the managers do you sort of maybe model yourself on, or take into the job with you? Are there particular ones that you do think, well, that's a role model for what I'm trying to do?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the biggest things I would say I try to do is I try to be myself. I try to, use my own experiences, use my own personality and character. You try and be someone else, I think that's where you cause problems. But in terms of taking real positives and lessons from, I think Mick McCarthy had a huge impact on me, and I think the two teams that I played with him at Wolves and Sunderland were fantastic teams, great team spirit, camaraderie, and he was like I mentioned with Wilder, he was the focal point for that. I think with Mick, it's pretty well documented. He's very straightforward, very honest. He's a player's manager. People want to play for him. So I definitely try and take habits that I think he exhibited. But honestly, there's things like Danny Wilson, things that even again people think my relationship with Nigel Clough is so bad that I wouldn't even see any positives. But there's definitely positives in a manager that's managed the amount of games he's had. So you try and take all these positives, and then there's negatives, because no one's perfect. There's things that some of these managers have done that I think, right, I'll try and stay clear of that, because I think that. So and then put it all together.
Interesting, Neil, that you can take positives from a manager that you fell out with, or he fell out with you, or there was a massive rift. You can take positives from Nigel Clough as well. Of
course. I mean, we got to an FA Cup semi-final, we got to a League Cup semi-final under Nigel, and I'd played in teams far better than that team that had struggled in cups. Nigel, one of his strengths was he did give you a freedom. He gave the team a freedom, a belief for these games to kind of go and express yourself, to go and we kind of played with no shackles. It wasn't overly tactical, but there was enough. But it just gave us enough that we went. We won at Villa Park, we won at Fulham. We knocked off 2 or 3 Premier League clubs that year. So you're going to be doing something right if you're getting results like that. So you try and take what it is, and you have your own thoughts on that. Then again, it's the same from all the managers that I've worked under. Neil Warnock, it was a very short period of time, but able to see from him and speak to players that people underestimate just how good he is at motivating men to want to play well and want to do well for him. That's why these guys are so successful.
Yeah, and man management at the heart of it. I mean, sometimes it can work. Sometimes you could argue, looking from the outside, that Nigel Clough's man management failed in your case, although there are plenty of cases where it succeeded.
Yeah, again, the great thing is about football is about opinions, isn't it? And obviously, certain players. Nigel's had great long career relationships with them. John Brayford, for example. I think one of the things that I felt always with Mick McCarthy, that he was the best at, that he got the most out of the players that he had in the time that he had them, and then when he could move on, maybe and improve that position, that's when the player would fade out and the next player would come in, and it would always be done so that the club could have the success along the way, without major rifts, upsetting it. And again, and I've said this many occasions, I have no problem with a manager not picking me. It's part and parcel of it. I felt that got to the point where it was at the detriment of the club. I think we played in playoff games without a recognised centre back. Now he might have felt that was better than myself at the time, and that's his decision. That's what he's paid to do. I think you've always got to be careful as a coach, not to let the personal.
Have you been involved in anything similar with any of your players in your short career so far?
No, thankfully not. I don't, again, the situation I found myself in, I'd like to think I might have a fallout with a player, but I hope they'll never have to treat them the way I get treated. I think I've been put in a few situations where we've had we have our players share apartments. Here we provide accommodation, so they share apartments. We had incidents where two guys that lived together ended up in a pretty bad fight together. Had to deal with that. We've had other off the field incidents I've had to deal with. And again, I'm probably in quite a fortunate situation where I'm able to try and put myself in their shoes, having just not long retired from playing. So hopefully I can relate to them. But at the same
I mean, you say a pretty bad fight. I mean, when you use the words pretty bad, I guess it was, because normally football people dismiss the odd bit of fisticuffs in training or during a match as handbags. So if you're saying it was pretty bad, it must have been.
It was. It wasn't. It certainly wasn't something that was common. But again, this is what you're dealing with. You're dealing with human beings that have other things going on in their life and other situations. And that was a Sunday morning that phone call came, and my Sunday with my family was ended instead spent in Tampa dealing with two guys that had let their emotions get the better of them. And it's a real shame, because they both had to leave the club, and really, really, decent guys that had made bad judgment calls. And
had they not been sharing accommodation, that may never have happened, I suppose.
And again, it might not have. But these are the things that come across your desk that you don't get taught how to deal with. You've got to kind of learn on the job. Again, we've had incidents with our top centre back, texting the athletic trainer to say he's not feeling great, he won't be in tomorrow, and then walking into the bar that the athletic trainer's in 2 minutes later on. It's just, and these are the things. It's just great. You just got to manage it and get the best out of these.
You know the nature of the beast. You know the animal. So you've seen plenty of this going on over the years. So, well, it's fascinating. That completes our part one. I've yet to talk in more detail about how Tampa Bay are doing, what the lockdown has meant for you, the fact that you're coming out of lockdown and what you're able to do now. And hopefully we can talk about all of that in part two. But I'm also hoping that we'll be joined by a former Sheffield Wednesday player, Nigel Jemson, who I don't think you know, but of course you know well of him. He's about to climb Kilimanjaro, would you believe, in a charity effort with several other ex-players. So plenty more to come. Hope you can rejoin us after this short break.